Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on a Twitter handle, and I'm joined today on Friday, May the 12th by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald. Good morning, Aidan. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Tony. How are you?
I'm good. I believe you were at the Celtic Women's game last night, but we'll talk a wee bit more about that later. Yeah?
Yeah, I was at the game last night. It was enjoyable. I'm sure we'll get to it.
I was going to say that. You must have enjoyed it. Excellent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we always do, we've got a new deal for you running along the strap line at the bottom. If you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you can support top quality journalism covering the club you love. And we're offering you £12 for 1 year's full access to everything that's written on the website. That's a great deal, that £12 for 1 year's full access to everything that's written on the website, all for the click of a button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That represents decent value, Aidan. It equates to £1 a month, doesn't it? Basically.
Yeah, of course, and as well as sort of access to videos like this, there'll be part of your subscription will include big interviews conducted by Tony, a sort of analysis from Ryan McGinley involving Stats Bomb, as well as Y Scout and other Stats Bomb features, some people like Alan Morrison, etc., that contribute to the site. Obviously, ahead of the summer, there's going to be a lot of transfer speculation, one of which we're going to touch on today, and there'll be scouting pieces as Celtic are sort of linked with players across that. So get yourself involved if you haven't already.
Correct. That's exactly what we're saying. Get yourself involved. Just hit that subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, Aidan, we have got to Friday. First time I've really mentioned it, except in passing. But there's a wee game of association football taking place down Govan Way tomorrow, featuring the Scottish Premiership champions Celtic travelling to the home of their city rivals Rangers. Celtic looking to complete an unbeaten season against Rangers, and if they win, that'll be 5 wins and a draw, Aidan. But if they come out undefeated, 4 wins, 2 draws, obviously. But yes, that would be a nice wee milestone for Celtic again this season, clocking up an unbeaten season against Rangers. Just goes to show what the manager was saying last year. As I said, come back bigger, better, stronger. We kind of have, haven't they, Aidan?
Yeah, definitely. We didn't know at the time how Celtic exactly were going to be able to top that, but there's no doubt they definitely have in terms of their output so far. I mean, the fact that they're potentially going in an unbeaten season against Rangers if they don't lose at the weekend is a phenomenal start in itself, Tony. Not even thinking about all the other ones in terms of goals, potential points record, or treble as well. If we just take that sort of start in isolation, it's phenomenal. And yeah, they've definitely came back bigger and better, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think during Martin O'Neill's season, they completed a game in Whitewash, as it became known as. They released a DVD with that title and it being a Whitewash. But if they can reel off another victory, it'd be as close as damn it, really, wouldn't it? You know, Kyogo's goal at Ibrox in January, salvaging a 2-2 draw, that apart being pretty flawless against Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like sort of, it's very difficult to win all the games against Rangers, but I think the fact is, if Celtic were able to record a whole season, the only game they didn't win obviously was the draw at Ibrox, which when you look back on, it was so important. It was almost like a win in itself. The fact to keep the team 9 points clear at the time, that could be one of the most, if not the most important goal of the season, despite it coming in a game it was a draw. So yeah, as much as they wouldn't have won every single game if they won at the weekend, it would be near enough a whitewash, Tony, to be honest, particularly when the points gap would then be extended again to 16 points. So it would be near enough a whitewash without it being a complete one.
Now, we will not give too much away of our predicted 11s, but young Ryan did a piece, hasn't he, on the newsletter, and he's put in 4 players, who's doing very well on the socials, that he thinks should be in for tomorrow. Aidan, put that link up, shall we? You can read that guy, see who he wants to play.
I'll fire it in now, Tony.
Yep. And he's named, just name check them, shall we?
It was Awaka, Bernaby, and somebody else. I can't remember.
Haksabanovic and Wall, wasn't it? So he wants Iwata, Bernabe, Haksabanovic, and O to play on Saturday. Aidan, just a general question: do you concur with that, or are you playing your strongest team possible, or do you think this is the ideal game to let these guys loose?
I think Ange will probably play. This might be the strongest team that plays out of the last sort of 3 or 4 games in terms of the league action. Also, the Scottish Cup final will be full pelt ahead in terms of strength of squad. Ange obviously will do his presser later on today, Tony, as we always sort of preface before this sort of thing in terms of us making lineup predictions. It's why we wait before releasing our schedule and our predicted lineups to see what Ange says, because there's always a potential for a sort of grenade to be thrown out of nowhere. I mean, the famous one in recent sort of weeks and months being Aaron Moy. I think you and Sean all had him in our team, and then he out of nowhere he was out for a sustained period of time. So we'll need to kind of play it by ear on that. In terms of the actual strength of the squad, I reckon a couple of the players that Ryan's mentioned could be involved, but ones like Bernabe, I would imagine Taylor will probably be in from the start, unless there's been any sort of injury over the last sort of week or so.
Yeah. Now, Chalpel comes in, play our strongest team. It's under Scotland, full strength for me. He's saying Alan Woods, play the strongest team, give Michael Beale nothing. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are saying that they hope that Ange plays a strong team. Derek Crawford comes in and says, like all the French players, listen, my opinion, Ange won't give anything away today either. Morning, guys. Thanks for the comments. Really appreciate it. So, yeah, lots of kind of differing opinions there, Aidan, about who Celtic play, strong team or not. Jason Lee saying he hopes Ralston starts. You made a good point there that you think this will be he'll play the strongest team and then maybe start playing French players in the 3 games that are left after that in the run up to the cup final. I tend to agree. Patrick Joyce saying he hopes Kyogo will be fit enough for the game. And Sons of Scotland goes back and says if Rangers want to win, we must make them earn it. So he's saying basically play the strongest team, I think, is the and reading between the lines with that one. So there you go. And Pete McGlone, Pete says this will be a good match to try the double pivot. I guess you're going into this game, Aidan, in a really relaxed frame of mind. No, you don't want to lose it. You want to give Rangers any encouragement or to lay down any kind of a marker for next season, because that will be the chat if Rangers do win. But there's such a relaxed flow to this, isn't it, that you feel that if Celtic do put out a strong team and they can relax, as I've said before, the shackles are off, and you can see them winning again.
Yeah, I think the option of being able to potentially play like, the crowd against Rangers at Ibrox, that's the sort of opportunity that Celtic have here, as I'd imagine Rangers probably thought they had before the 3-2 game last month. I reckon that I think it will be quite a strong lineup. In terms of Ralston, Tony, I'd imagine he will play because Alistair Johnson's out, but I think, players like Taylor will be involved. Kyogo is maybe the one that might not be. Once again, we're waiting to see what Ange says in terms of him. We know there's a potential injury, but I think outside of that, will probably be the strongest team possible. And as you say, the shackles will be off.
Yep. Chilpel comes in, why on earth would not play our strongest team and let Rangers have a chance? Hazel Finn comes in and says, would love to see more of O, but how do you drop Kyogo? It's a dilemma. Tim Anon saying, full pelt, no mercy, put Rangers to the sword. Kaiser as well saying, no mercy, play the strongest lineup. So, yeah, that seems to be the David Ferguson. Morning, David, how you doing? Doesn't really matter who plays, the depth of squad is capable of beating a team with no strikers and a questionable defence, and we'll leave that last part out because that's a bit unfair on Michael Beale. David, now, come on, behave yourself. Yep, and Sons of Scotland says, go there and put on the style. And Andrew Gallia is saying it's going to be a battle. Celtic have to be up for it, full strength team. Yeah, I mean that's my thoughts as well. I think go with your full strength team. Can't win the championship 1 week and then go to Ibrox and lose. You have to prove why you're the champions, Aidan. So put your full strength team out and win the game, and then just make the point that you're going to have to go some to remove Celtic from the lofty perch at the top of the Premiership table at this moment in time. So yeah, and I think that'll be the message from Ange Postecoglou to his players. You've won the title, go and show why you're the champions. Don't be losing this game. So hence I think that'll be reflected in the selection that he makes. David Ferguson comes back and saying that was being kind, Tony. To Michael Beale. Now, come on. You know my thoughts on that. You can have private thoughts, but you can't be disrespectful to people in these football positions. That's just my thoughts. Aidan, strong team.
Yeah, I think it will be a pretty strong lineup, Tony, to be honest. Just for the reasons that a lot of the commenters have listed there. You don't want to give Rangers any sort of chance to build a bit of momentum, and Ange will be aware of that as well. There'll be a couple of obviously forced changes. I would imagine, Alistair Johnson's still unavailable. We know Carter Vickers isn't available, potentially Kyogo, but outside of that, I would expect a relatively similar team to the one that lined up at Tynecastle.
Now, Mount Cadet comes in and says that Rangers are going to try to injure our best players, though. That's always chances of players getting injured in any game, really, isn't it? So this one's no different. But Pete G makes a good point. They'd have to catch them first. Yeah, yes, indeed. But yeah, it's going to be a different game, Aidan. There's no Celtic fans there. And, wonder how Rangers will cope if Celtic pile on the agony, turn on the style, put on the style and go a goal ahead, see how their fans would react to each other. So, and I think that's what you do. You have to go there and aim to, I would say, quieten the crowd, but I don't think it'd be quiet if Celtic actually started playing their brand of football, as they say, Aidan.
Yeah, I'd imagine if Celtic are able to score early, it'll definitely have an impact. I'm trying to think, I think the last time there was no away fans from a Celtic point of view at a game against Rangers, it was Ange's first Glasgow Derby, in which Celtic was 1-0. Actually played all right that day, but it didn't really work out. So there's not been a lot of examples recently. That's sort of the only one I can think of. But it'll be a different aspect. We know it's been discussed to death, the thing about how the away allocation at these sort of games, and how it has been quite small for a while. But despite there only previously being 700-800 Celtic fans, it will make a difference that they're not there. But I think hopefully the team can use that to their advantage. And if you get an early goal, obviously the amount of pressure that the Rangers team are under, in terms of they've also performed pretty poorly this season in the league or across all competitions. So if Celtic can score early, then I think that's definitely an opportunity to put pressure on Tony.
Now, Gary McDowell's went early, Aidan. Joe Hart, Tony Ralston, Carol Starfelt, Yuki Kobayashi, Greg Taylor, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, Matt O'Reilly, Daizen Maeda, Kyogo, Furuhashi, and Jota. That spells of a strong team to me, Aidan.
Yeah, that's a very strong team. The only one in that would probably be Kyogo. We just, obviously, Ange had said, I think it was after the game at the weekend, but he came out in the sort of later quotes that he did have the knock. We obviously seen him have to go off, but then he was kind of sitting in the subs bench, so everybody was hoping he was okay. And he might be all right, but I think he could be the one, Tony, that maybe Celtic keep an eye on, maybe starts on the bench or he does just get left out. I mean, you've got O there. He'll be looking to kick on after kind of scoring his fourth goal at the sort of for Celtic against Hearts, and then there's also the option to play Abada and Maeda through the middle. So, if Kyogo does miss out, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, to be honest.
No, they're all coming in now, Aidan. Joe Hart, Tony Ralston, Carol Starfelt, Kobayashi, Taylor, Hatate, McGregor, O'Reilly, Maeda, Kyogo, and Jota. Is that more or less the same team, wasn't it, from Peter Morrison, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So there you go. So lots of people coming in with their team, Aidan. That's their team. We'll keep ours under wraps until later on, and we'll wait to hear what the manager says. But my ball comes in and says Abada should be let loose. Abada likes a goal against Rangers, Aidan. That might be the game for him to feature at some point, given his comments in midweek there about saying he's perfectly happy at Celtic and he's going for the treble. So there you go. Might be the kind of day to unleash him again.
Potentially, Tony. I would be a wee bit surprised if he was to start, to be honest. Just given the sort of strength of the wingers this season and the fact that if O's available, you'd imagine he'll play through the middle. But look, Abada's record against Rangers is phenomenal. I think it's 3 goals since he joined. 2 obviously in the 4-0 game earlier this season. I'd imagine he'll be desperate to try and get the score sheet again to get his goal tally up a wee bit. It's also been phenomenal, but slightly behind what he did last season. Big part being he's also been out injured and he's not played as many games, so it probably is understandable. But yeah, no, I'd imagine he'll be desperate to try and get in the score sheet.
I'll come back to your prediction later in the programme. We'll end on the predictions. But now something else making the news, Aidan, potential transfer signing target Ryotaro Ito, attacking central midfielder who plays for RB Rex Niigata. He's been doing very well in the J2 league past couple of seasons, but he's moved up to the J1 league and he's got 6 goals in 14 appearances and 2 assists. He's been involved in 62% of Niigata's goals this season, and he started every game except one this season, bearing in mind the J League's already started. And last season he got 9 goals and 11 assists from 42 appearances. Now, we've been linked with Ito before, haven't we? So it's a kind of rumour that's not going away. People putting 2 and 2 together. Is he a Tati replacement? All that kind of stuff, Aidan. But it's a market that has worked out very successfully for Celtic since Ange came in. He'll know the player very well. If Ange wants the player and that infamous phone call takes place and the player agrees to the switch, then that could well happen. But Keimatsu coming in, telling us some stuff about him. He says Keimatsu Ryotaro Ito is a 25-year-old who's played in J2 for his entire career. Last year's stats are J2 stats. I gave last year's stats, but I gave this year's stats as well.
Which are J1, Tony. I was just going to touch on that. It's 6 goals and 11 assists, is it, Tony?
11 assists, yeah.
Which is also in the top flight, so that's interesting, which is quite good to see. Yeah, there's no surprise that Celtic have been linked to a Japanese player, isn't it? It's been basically every window. We know, obviously, really the only one that's moved in the summer window so far has been Kyogo. So it might be one that potentially you get rumoured and then sort of maybe potentially arrives in the January. But no, it's definitely interesting, and it'll be another option for Celtic in the sort of middle of the park, or even moving forward to the number 10 position. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it progresses.
Keimatsu's saying this is clickbait of the worst kind. Yeah, it may well be. We're just bringing it up for the fact that it's been mentioned in one of the newspapers. Keimatsu, that we will stress that that's just a name that has been.
That's why we've put link in the title. To be fair, we're not suggesting that Celtic are just about to sign him. It's just getting to that stage of the season in the summer that Celtic are going to be linked with players. So
we made a conscientious decision last year not to talk about every transfer link, but I think Ito is one that's been linked before. So because of that, we decided to mention it. But we thank you for your input on it, because maybe know a wee bit more about it than ourselves. So Max Stack coming and saying, would say I had a Tati replacement. Tati's more about the ball. Ito looks more attacking. I'm always of the opinion that I trust the manager. This is an area and a market that he's well versed in, and he has knowledge and real expertise. So Keimatsu coming back in and seeing another example of somebody looking at the latest J League flash in the pan and trying to turn it into clicks. It may well be it'll come out in the wash. So we will keep our eyes on that, Keimatsu. So there you go. But it is the first kind of name, isn't it, Aidan, that Celtic have been linked with since kind of as we're coming to the end of the season. And bearing in mind, Celtic have bought players from the J League before in January, mid-season. So I don't think it's wildly speculative to at least talk about it. Ronnie Barker back again says, Pete Musi, yeah, my dogs are in full voice. Yeah, Aidan.
Sorry, Tony, you broke up just a wee bit there because my Wi-Fi's not the best today. Are you able to just repeat that? Sorry.
Aye, sure. I was just saying it's not wildly speculative to talk about it because Celtic have brought players in from the J League mid-season, and I think Ito has been linked before. So, I'm not saying he's going to sign. We're just saying it's a name that's been risen to the surface again, so it's worthy of some kind of discussion.
Absolutely, and I think you made a good point saying you and Sean, etc., made a conscious decision last year not to talk about every transfer linking. Will be the same this summer as well, but this has sort of been the first one that's popped up for a wee while, probably because the fact is the season hasn't concluded yet, so there's not going to be lots of speculation, because obviously a lot of players across various leagues are still finishing their campaigns. The J League obviously, started back at the beginning of the year, so they're kind of coming up to the middle of their season. But yeah, we just thought it was one worth touching on because there had been a wee bit of interest before, like you mentioned, Tony, and his stats were pretty interesting as well. We know he was a J League 2 player last year, but the fact he's moved up, and obviously Matt's will know a lot more than us about it, but he seems to be so far doing all right this season in terms of continuing a bit of his form in. But we'll have to keep looking at it, and Well, it'll be definitely a name to keep an eye on, Tony, if there's more and more speculation about him. What would interest me is if Celtic are interested, as that report says, would they potentially come in the summer or would it be January? Obviously, the only one that's came in the summer so far has been Kyogo in terms of Japanese players. There's maybe been links to other players, but Awata, Kobayashi this January, and then the previous year, Maeda, Ideguchi, and Hatate. So that's probably the one that would interest me the most. The point that would interest me the most, sorry, when he would potentially come if Celtic are in fact interested.
Well, they are heading to Japan in the summer.
It's a good point, Tony. Something that I definitely didn't forget about when just saying what I've said there.
Yeah, so they could very well ramp up those discussions or have some sort of meeting or come to some sort of agreement during that time. So, as you say, it is something to keep our eye on. It's something that the manager has, a market that the manager has worked so successfully so far. And I don't think it's a wild leap, is it, to sort of connect the dots at this minute in time. Only, well, kind of two factors in this. If the manager wants him and he wants to come, Ito wants to come, he'll become a Celtic player. And if the board sanction the transfer, then obviously the manager will certainly try and go and get him. So we will, as always, this is how these things work. So we'll see what happens. But again, I'm always kind of interested in guys that have been linked before. And Ito's a name that it's one of those ones, isn't it? It's like the Stephen Fletcher, isn't it? Back in the day, those kind of rumours,
Maybe not quite at that level yet, Tony.
No,
hopefully we don't see a repeat of that anytime soon. But
and if you're an old dad like me, you can remember names like Joe McLaughlin and Pat Nevin always been linked with Celtic and these kind of transfers that never came in. So, you always have these kind of names that crop up. Hacking Yakin. Remember when Celtic were in the Champions League under Martin O'Neill, guys like that. So we'll see how it goes. But I thought it was a name worthy of discussion. What we know about him, central attacking midfielder, doing very well. So I guess it's a watch this space, Aidan, because they will be linked with all sorts of clubs this summer, players this summer. So it never stops, as they say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tony. And it is one of those ones they're going to be linked to a lot of Japanese players just because of the success and the amount of business Celtic have conducted in that market. I imagine that probably for years to come now, even when Ange moves on, Celtic are going to be linked with Japanese players. It's just the way it is. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And the fact you do point out that we're going to Japan and South Korea, something that I don't know how I managed to forget that when I was making that point earlier, but we'll just gloss over it, Tony. Didn't happen. That is something else that might be some more transfer business potentially looking further ahead that can be conducted over there as well.
Correct. I think that it would be naive to think that they're not over there and looking at players as well and possible trying to tie up some deals, if not for the summer, possibly in January. Just makes sense to me if that's the kind of what they're doing. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens, Aidan. What do we know? Yeah, there you go. Now, I do want to touch upon last night, Aidan. You were there. Celtic women's team 3, Glasgow City 1. Celtic came from behind. A rip-roaring, free-scoring, never boring second half performance, Aidan, in front of a 9,500 crowd, which was a record for a women's attendance in a game in Scotland. Just wonderful scenes, Aidan. Brilliant result. Great second half performance, and Fran Alonso, I think, needs a couple of ecstasy to calm him down, doesn't he? I mean, my goodness, what a celebration that was. Loved that. Loved the fact that the girls, you could see the girls getting a lift from the crowd. Now, you were there, so you can tell us all about it. But what a terrific performance in the second half. And you're going to do a report explaining everything about taking it down to a last day decider, what needs to happen and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sort of permutations in terms of what can happen with SWPL, which you could probably do a whole podcast on in itself. But in terms of last night, yeah, it was a brilliant night. Obviously, as you said, over 9,500 fans. Sort of you had all the fans behind the goal and one sort of big massive ultra section, which was really good to see. The atmosphere was phenomenal. It's maybe a separate discussion that in terms of the obviously proposals that were put back earlier in the season, or put forward earlier in the season, about the Celtic end behind that goal. I think last night was, I know people have their opinions on that, of course, but last night was a good advertisement for that in terms of what it could look like. And the first sort of, in the flesh advertisement we've seen for that previously, it's also just been plans. So yeah, the sort of the atmosphere was phenomenal. And Celtic, it was a tough game. Glasgow City, very good team, sitting top of the league. Been for this before. I think before Rangers won the league last year, Glasgow City had won it something like 13 years in a row. They've been in the latter stages of the Champions League. They're a top team. So the fact that Celtic going 1-0 down, you were starting to feel the worst because it was a must-win game last night.
Yeah.
And the fact that they got back into it with some great finishes was really, really positive. Natasha Flint, she scored the equaliser. She was player of the match, and deservedly so. She was absolutely phenomenal in the game. She obviously came from Leicester. She's kind of played for Manchester City, etc. in the WSL. So she's played at the sort of, that's kind of seen, I think, is the sort of top league in terms of women's football. So she played right at the top, and you seen that she basically never gave the ball away the whole game, Tony.
Yeah.
Even though it was a slightly different position, it was almost like a Callum McGregor-esque performance. If we're trying to make some sort of comparison in that, she basically did everything right. She was driving Celtic on. I believe that was her first goal as well for Celtic last night. So not much better way to do that. So yeah, she took the goal brilliantly. And then obviously in terms of the rest of the game, Celtic cleared out and then put Celtic 2-1 up. And then also they also got a late goal. So it ended up being a pretty sort of resounding victory, which, given the way the first half went, I probably didn't predict. No, it was a really positive night for the women's game, for Scottish football. It was obviously live on Sky Sports as well, giving it that sort of extra platform. And you seen Fran Alonso, I think, before and after the game, Tony was so positive and so happy sharing the interview and his celebrations. And deservedly so, because he's doing a really good job with the women's team. It was obviously frustrating when they lost to Rangers in the recent game, and that meant if they'd won last night, they went top of the league. But as we might sort of discuss with a bit more detail, it is looking like it's going to go right down at the wire, which is really exciting for a Celtic point of view and the women's game in general.
You get booked for his celebration with equalisers. I mean, I can't get my head around stuff like that. That's the whole point.
Might have to do with leaving the technical area, Tony. I hadn't there as a rule about that, but it's whether or not that should be a booking is another discussion. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's a nonsense too, especially in games like that. It's absolutely frightening that you can't celebrate a goal like that. It was an important goal in terms of the season, so what's he meant to do? Just stand there? But I love it. And listen, if he wants to run about and go off his nut and celebrate goals like that, I say let him. Football's a passionate game. He's only showing his passion for the game. But lots of comments coming in, Aidan, so I'm going to flick them up. Tam Mac, what a turnout for the girls last night. Plunge McNugget, just delighted to see the girls come from behind to win. They won't have played in front of an atmosphere like that before. Andrew Galea, didn't the girls love the support? Great to see. Lots of comments coming in. Magnet 67, the girls were superb and the Celtic end must happen. Natasha in like Flint, what a player. Says Pete McGee. Patrick Joyce, I watched last night's game and just want to say congratulations to Celtic on the victory against Glasgow City. Helen speaks. Morning, Helen, how you doing? Morning, all. What an awesome second half performance from Celtic to win 3-1. Superb performances from all. Sunder Scotland 67. Morning, boys. Great win last night for the ladies. Pete Morrison, well done, the girls. Sunder Scotland again. The fans played a big part in getting the ladies over the line last night. Great to see. Pete McGee talking about the women's team and the derby. Can't wait. What an atmosphere. I mean, this is buzzing with comments, Aidan. Well done, the girls last night. What a game, what a result. I'm going to read them all out, guys, because the girls deserve it. The Celtic support last night were amazing, shouting the girls on. They most certainly were, says Helen. Stephen Devine, 1982. Good morning, guys. Usually have to watch Celtic win and catch up. So great to see it live. Was at the women's game last night and was outstanding. Glasgow Celtic serial winners. Pete McGowan comes in, make the Celtic wall happen. Unbelievable support for the women's team there. Aidan, who the Celtic women's team play next, I believe it's Hibs. Is that right, Aidan? You said that at Airdrie Stadium. Is that right? Yeah.
Hibs away from home, Tony, the next match, right. And then the last day of the season is against Glasgow City. I don't know if you want to just come on onto that now in terms of what could happen with the sort of league now. If Celtic, Glasgow City and Rangers all win their individual games at the weekend, the following weekend it all goes down to the last day of all three teams potentially being able to still win the league, which is pretty phenomenal and something that at least in the men's game, it's obviously went down in the past between Celtic and Rangers, but in terms of like 3 teams being able to win in the last day, you'll know better than me, Tony, but I don't remember that ever really being the case in modern times anyway. So the fact that it can turn out like that is going to be a phenomenal, really. So what would need to happen is, assuming all the teams win at the weekend, which I'd imagine they probably will, Rangers play Glasgow City on the last day. Celtic play Hearts at Airdrie. how it basically goes is, if Celtic have the better goal difference out of all 3 of those teams, so if Celtic win that and Rangers beat Glasgow City, on the assumption that it's going to be quite difficult, I think, for Rangers to beat Glasgow City by 5 goals, given Glasgow City are a very quality team, Celtic would then win the league. So in a way, Celtic might potentially be looking for Rangers to win that game so they could win the league. A draw could potentially maybe be enough as well in terms of goal difference, but in terms of the points aspect, if Celtic were to win and Rangers were to win, assuming they don't win by 5 or more goals against Glasgow City, Celtic would then win the league, which would be a phenomenal achievement for Fran Alonso and for the team. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, Tony. A lot of it will be dependent, obviously, on what happens at the weekend.
Yeah.
That will decide whether or not it's going to go to the last day. But if it does, then, what a day. I think it's the 21st of May. All the fixtures are taking place Sunday the 21st. Both games kicking off at the same time. So what a day that's going to be if it does, in fact, come down to it.
Yeah. Now, you asked about the men's game, if that had ever happened. The only time I can remember something like that in our last day and was 1982-83, the last game of the season. And some of the older commenters will be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think on that last day of the season, Dundee United played Dundee. Dundee United won 2-1 and they won the title. Aberdeen played, I can't remember who Aberdeen played, but they won. And Celtic played Rangers at Ibrox on the last day of the season. Were 2-0 down, came back to win 4-2. Celtic finished third in the table on goal difference from Aberdeen, but because United won against Dundee on Tayside at Tannadice, they won the title. But those 3 teams could have won the league that day. Dundee United, Aberdeen, Celtic, if memory serves. And that's the first time that I can remember that happening, Aidan, in my lifetime. It's a kind of 3-way shootout. And just think of that, Aidan, it wouldn't be allowed to happen today. A Dundee derby for the title and a Glasgow derby in the hope that the other team slips up. And last game of the season, I think, incredible. And Celtic, to my knowledge, had like the whole of the Broomlin. They had a bit of the main stand and a bit of the Govan stand back in those days. I think John Gregg was the manager of the Rangers. They weren't doing particularly great, so they had a lot more supporters. Certainly more than they're going to have tomorrow at the game. Let's put it that way. But maybe some of the commenters, Stephen Lemon saying, "Think you're right. Tony was at Ibrox that day." Steve McGrory will be able to come in on that if he's listening. But I'm sure you're talking about a 3-team shootout, 82-83 last day of the season. Yeah, and if you go onto YouTube and look at that game, the Ibrox game, it was Charlie Nicholas' last game for Celtic, first time round. He scored 2 penalties, but it's just memorable for some brilliant Arthur Monford commentary, because it was covered by STV, and he's got some wonderful lines in it, like lung busting run at one point by Murdo McLeod, and I think he said Sandy Clark had it, but he didn't know he had it as he skied one over the bar from about 2 yards out. So wonderful stuff. But no, that's a really exciting end to the women's season, Aidan, if that all transpires, and there's no reason to think that it won't transpire, will it?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, just based off the way the 3 teams have been playing this season, that they'll all win their games this weekend. That could potentially kill, not the excitement, because particularly if sort of Rangers or Glasgow City drop points, it opens up for Celtic even more. But in terms of it being sort of 3 teams going for it, I would imagine they'll probably all win at the weekend. So, yeah, it's a high chance it will be the case, Tony, and it'll be exciting. Look, it's probably something we'll discuss in more detail next week, because obviously, after this Rangers game, it's kind of near enough dead rubber fixtures in terms of the men's team between now and the end of the season. So next week we'll maybe focus in on it more, but I just wanted to touch on it. And as you said, I'm going to do a wee explainer, just breaking that down later on today, about the sort of permutations of how that could occur. I mean, the fact that Celtic, after they lost that game to Rangers, they looked pretty much out of the running. And even when they were 1-0 down, last night you were wondering at one stage, is the chance to even finish second gone here? Because that, if Celtic had lost last night, Rangers would have been in second place as well. So Yeah, no, it's going to be really exciting, Tony. And I've got to say, I'm actually feeling quite confident about it, despite Celtic, it technically isn't in their hands, and that even if they win the 2 games, that might not be enough. Because Glasgow City, all they need to do if they win their 2 matches, they win the league, which is the position Celtic would have been in if they'd beaten Rangers. But I don't know. There's been a lot of swings in the SWPL this season, so I think one more, maybe just right at the end, could be the sort of way to cap it off. And I think hopefully there'll be a good support for the women's team down at Airdrie that day as well.
The irony in all of this, Aidan, is that Rangers will have to go for it because they could win the title too.
Champions League finishing second as well, Tony, they'll get. So the
So,
sort of, not just winning the league, but the sort
yeah.
of dynamic would be there for that.
So inadvertently, you could have on the last day a Rangers team conceivably beating Glasgow City and Celtic winning and being handed the title. I mean,
Unless they were to beat Glasgow City by 5 goals. Obviously, in terms of the goal difference thing, there is a round of fixtures before this. So the goals could get inflated either way. You can see in the SWPL sometimes there is pretty high score lines. 7, 8, 9 nils aren't uncommon. So that will obviously maybe sort of help it. But assuming there's no any massive score lines at the weekend, maybe 1, 2 nils or Celtic potential get a few goals so it keeps their goal difference healthy, then you would hope that I think Celtic would be very unlucky that see if Rangers were to win on the last day and they win and they still didn't win the league because Rangers have somehow won 6-0. I think that'd be one of the most unluckiest thing I've seen. I mean, I need to go back and see the last time Glasgow City were to lose a domestic game by 5 or 6 goals. The fact Celtic scored 3 against them last night was a bit of a sort of one-off. Never mind those sort of numbers. So we'll have to wait and see. But no, it's going to be interesting.
Correct. It'll be I'm just hoping for a barnstorming grandstand cliffhanger finish.
I think you're going to get that, Tony, which I know you're
going to get that. You reckon? I hope so. Excellent. But I think they deserve to. They deserve because they've manoeuvred themselves into that position after a brilliant second half last night. You were there, so you saw it. So excellent. So nice one. Okay, Aidan. Prediction time. Let's do it. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first, Tony.
Go on.
Just sort of put my sort of neck on line. I'll go 2-1 Celtic.
2-1 Celtic, you're saying?
Obviously, the last couple of games have been quite close. There was 2-1 in the 2 each in the semi, 2 each in the game at Ibrox in the league, 2-1 in the final, 3-2 at Parkhead, and 1-0 in the semi. So I'll go 2-1 Celtic. I'll go O to get both goals, Tony. Right, I think he's going to start. I might look stupid there if it turns out Keel goes completely fine, because as somebody was pointing out, his shoulder didn't stop him celebrating at Celtic Park. But
yeah,
I'll go for O to score 2, Celtic to win 2-1.
Peter Morrison, Celtic to win 3-0, Kaiser 10-0 Celtic. There you go. Always the eternal optimist, this Kaiser. Derek Crawford saying 2-1. He's going with you. Who else? Right, let's do this. David O'Raw, 3-1 Celtic. Paul Andrew Martin, 3-1 Celtic. Jason Lee, 2-1. B07. Let's see. Les D says, what did he say? Hoping for a mighty collapse, 4-1 to Celtic. Hazel Finn, 3-1 Celtic. Jason Lee said 2-1. Yep. So Andrew Gillier, 2-0. I'm going to side with Andrew. Say 2-0 Celtic. Raymond Haddon 1-0 Celtic. Curtis 3-1. Q go first. Last goal. Oh, there you go. Celtic to get a penalty and to win 3-1 says JJ McGarvey. There you go. Celtic 3, Rangers 2 says Helen Feeks. A repeat of the Celtic Park scoreline. So yeah, most people saying K-Mats are going 4-1. And well, there's just most people are confident, Aidan. I like that confidence going into it. George Townsley, Celtic 3-1. Means a lot more to Rangers than it does Celtic. Celtic going there as champions. David Ferguson 3-1 and a penalty to Celtic. Dermot says 3-2, penalty to Celtic. And Kaiser justifying his 10-0 by saying Kyogo hat-trick, Jota with 2 and Maida 6-0. Half-time Ibrox empties and O hacks it and Abada to finish it off to make it 10-0. There you go. Patrick Joyce saying he's going 3-0 Celtic. So there you go. Northampton Tim says 2-1 Celtic. Yep, everybody Confident Aidan Curtis, Majna Silas at Ibrox if Celtic take a 3-0 lead. And Michael McDonald with Celtic 3-1, which you could declare at the technology. Jason Lee saying Jota will score. And there you go. So 420 somewhere. Cancel my 2-0, change it to 4-0. I think
people are definitely confident, Tony, aren't they?
Supporters are confident with Aidan.
I think you're right. We've not quite dived in with those sort of scores, but Celtic did obviously beat Rangers 4-0 earlier this season. It seems so long ago now, but and that was the score going on 5, 6, 7 that day. So there's recent evidence of Celtic being able to score plenty of goals against Rangers. I'm just basing it off the last few scorelines have been quite close, and it being at Ibrox, Celtic not having any fans there. Regardless of whether you think that 700 or 800 makes an impact, that's maybe a debate in itself. But yeah, no, a win, only a wee 2-1 win or 2-0 is your prediction. I'm sure I'll be more than happy. And I think Ryan, when I was speaking to him the other day, he was sort of round about that, sort of saying he thinks it'll be quite tight, but hopefully Celtic will get a job done.
Excellent. Guys, thank you for your comments. Aidan, I always say it's result dependent. Your weekend, isn't it?
Particularly this Monday coming.
But to be fair, Celtic are going to Ibrox as champions. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, because it always matters when you play Rangers. Always, always, always. But you can go in smiling, can't you? And you'll still be smiling. Win, lose or draw, as the song says, Aidan. So we'll take.
That might be a slight grimace, Tony. We'll see. I can't promise a full-on smile if that's the case, but yes, we'll see what happens.
Danny, top show, lads. Thanks very much, Danny. I appreciate that. Kaiser taking a leaf out of my book. Rip roaring, free scoring, never boring, always winning, money spinning. Celtic turn up. That's what he's hoping. There you go. Cool. Les D, great show, guys. Always worth a subscription on the hoops. Thank you, Les D. Really appreciate that. We appreciate everybody who comes into the comments and adds their own tuppence worth in. We try and read as many of them out as we can. Showed great support for the women's team there, so thank you for that and all your comments regarding the women's team, and we wish them well in their endeavours to win their first ever title. Shaping up to be a cracking trophy presentation day, Aidan, with the men, the under-18s and the Celtic B team parading their silverware. Just hoping the women can add to that by winning a title as well. That'd be
also fantastic. The Scottish Cup as well, Tony. The women's team are in the Scottish Cup final. That's the day after trophy day in terms of for the men's team, so they might have a chance to sort of show off hopefully the league trophy that day, but not the Scottish Cup. But plenty to play for between now and the end of the season, Tony, despite there not being many weeks left, which is all we can ask for at this stage of the season.
Lots of love coming in for the Laurel and Hardy today. Great show as always, guys. Have a great Friday, folks. Thank you so much. David, Stephen Lemon, great show, guys. Thank you. Don't know for Lauren Hardy or Zig and Zag, whatever way. Thanks, lads. Great show, Jason Lee. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. Take care. Aidan, thanks for your contribution today. First class. Guys, thanks for the comments. We can't do it without you. We urge you to subscribe, but that's why we do it, because we enjoy everything that you contribute to it. Plans make Nugget, Clark Kent and Superman. We can decide who's who, Aidan. Cheers, guys. All the best.
I'll take the one.
Have a fantastic Friday. We'll see you Monday. All the best. Take care.